At the guard post in Defensive Sector 21 of the North Korean border, a South Korean soldier is performing his patrol duty as usual, when he suddenly hears hurried footsteps beside him. The soldier tensely looks around but sees no one. He immediately senses something is wrong and runs away in panic. Nearby comrades hear a desperate scream. They rush over to see what's happening, but in just a moment the soldier dies. His comrade is horrified and raises his gun defensively. In a daze, he sees a black shadow flash by, and can't help but feel a chill down his spine. Suddenly, a great force hits him, directly knocking him to the ground. What follows is an even more horrifying scene, as the military quickly locates the scene of the incident. It is finally confirmed that of the two patrol soldiers, one is dead and one is missing. A twisted rifle is left at the scene, and looking at the magazine, no bullets have been fired. At this moment, in a hidden corner deep in the forest, a pair of red eyes appears, because it is on the border. This sudden event is quickly taken seriously by the military, who specially dispatch First Lieutenant Jae-jin of the Chemical Defense Command to lead the investigation. She discovers a new clue at the scene of the accident. She sees many footprints of North Korean civil police on the ground. Could the culprit be North Korean garrison soldiers crossing the border? What makes it even more suspicious is that in the collected blood sample, rabies virus is detected. Jae-jin quickly realizes the seriousness of the situation. She immediately mobilizes soldiers from nearby guard posts, deciding to continue investigating further, determined to find Private No-go who is missing. Dong Chin is among those mobilized this time, usually performs very well and is a key training target of the reconnaissance team this time. Jae-jin happened to see the entire process of Dong Chin fighting wolves through drones, and he is also the only canine handler in the team. For this search, he also brought his canine partner. Dong Chin was a little surprised to discover Jae-jin in the team. It turned out that they had known each other before and there seemed to be some conflict. However, they quickly adjusted their mood, preparing to focus on performing the mission. But they didn't know that the search target of this trip, Private No-go, was left in a forest, and over time he gradually regained consciousness. Unexpectedly, he would suffer even greater damage next. This time it was definitely over. Dong Chin and Jae-jin followed the clues to search, quickly entering Defensive Sector 21. Suddenly there was a noise in the forest ahead. Dong Chin turned on his night vision goggles but didn't detect anything unusual. They continued to move forward, finding the military boots that Private No-go had dropped not far away, with quite a few dents left on them. Dong Chin thought that Private No-go must be in great danger at this time, and must be found immediately right now. Suddenly there was an explosion not far away, probably something had triggered a mine. Suddenly a shadow flashed by. The canines seemed to have discovered something and began to become restless. So the search team split into two groups. One group stayed on guard, the other group led by Jae-jin followed the canine to search for people. After a while of walking, the canines started running wildly into the bushes. Dong Chin and Jae-jin kept close behind. When they reached an open space, Dong Chin suddenly covered Jae-jin's mouth and signaled her to look ahead. Just as the two were about to shoot, the other person disappeared into the bushes again. The soldiers in the team had to expand their search range. The canine quickly found Private No-go's body. The person's neck had bite marks as if they had been bitten and injured, but there were no signs of resistance. What was even stranger was that there were many blisters on his arm. Jae-jin didn't understand, and decided to go back and report the situation to Team 1. The others stayed to wait for reinforcements. Unexpectedly, as soon as she returned to Team 1, an emergency situation occurred. Countless growls were heard from the low bushes. In the darkness, pairs of eerie green eyes occasionally appeared. The soldiers of Team 1 tensely observed their surroundings. They quickly discovered that they were surrounded by a pack of wild dogs. The soldiers immediately opened fire in retaliation, but this pack of wild dogs was much more ferocious than imagined. Finally, the pack of wild dogs scattered and fled under the intense fire. At the same time, Dong Chin's canine partner, not far away, seemed to have discovered something. It didn't even bother to listen to his attempts to stop it, forcefully snapping its leash and rushing into the distance. Dong Chin followed closely behind, but discovered that it had run into a minefield. Dong Chin hesitated for a moment, but still braved the danger and ran into the minefield. Not long after, there was an explosion in front. Dong Qin anxiously ran over and saw the canine partner lying motionless on the ground. This canine partner had been with him for so many years. Losing it right before his eyes, Dong Qin couldn't help but burst into tears, but fortunately, their mission on this trip had been completed. Private Nogo's body was taken back to the base, and the report on this operation has been sent to the hands of Defense Commander Handesic. Unexpectedly, this seemingly ordinary attack is giving this commander a headache, because the accident site is in Defensive Sector 21. For this commander, it's like a nightmare. In 1997, relations between North Korea and South Korea were very tense. At that time, a South Korean patrol team in Border Area 21 discovered a North Korean female officer carrying a child after making inquiries. They learned that she wanted to take the child and defect to South Korea, but not long after, the North Korean military also chased after them. The two sides quickly came face to face. Unexpectedly, a South Korean officer accidentally pulled the trigger due to being too tense. This was like a signal to launch an attack on the lawn with no place to hide. More than a dozen soldiers from North and South Korea broke out into a fierce gun battle. The female officer died on the spot, but fortunately the child was unharmed. But soldiers on both sides also suffered heavy casualties. According to the rules of engagement at the time, the South Korean officer who fired first would be severely punished. But unexpectedly, he colluded with another soldier, killing all the injured comrades and telling the outside world that the North Korean garrison soldiers fired first. 2 South Korean soldiers survived. They were hailed as patriots defending national territory, and under the hype of the media, the reputation of the two people also increased. Currently, one has become the defense commander, namely Han Dae-sik, the person who can't help but tremble when he sees Sector 21. Another one, Lee Hae-chi, joined politics and became a well-known member of parliament. At the Defense Command, forensic doctors conducted a preliminary examination of Private No's vitreous body, predicting that he died from excessive blood loss after being bitten by an animal. Jae-jin believes that this incident may be related to rabies, because there are similar blisters on the body of the deceased and the wild dog. However, forensic doctors are still unable to determine for sure, and a conclusion must wait for the test results. At this time, Dong Qin is also having some trouble. The prosecutor believes that the canine partner's death was due to Dong Qin's improper handling, and could be charged with negligent management of supplies. Dong Qin sneered at this accusation. A canine partner is not a supply, but a living being. Dong Qin angrily tore up the investigation report. Just as Jae-jin happened to pass by the interrogation room and heard the argument inside, she intentionally waited for Dong Qin to come out to comfort him. It turned out that the two were once very close lovers, but later broke up due to conflicts and misunderstandings. Jae-jin is a very straightforward person, and she doesn't want to explain anything about the past. So she quietly turned and left. At this time, the laboratory doctor called her. The blood test results are out. The deceased's body actually carries the rabies virus, and it has mutated. This made Jae-jin feel that this was unusual. Could be a conspiracy by the North Korean side. Meanwhile, Dong Qin is held in a room awaiting military trial. He has always insisted that he did not make a mistake. Just then, another soldier walked into the room. This person also violated military discipline and seemed unapproachable. Dong Qin was extremely upset and almost fought him. Unexpectedly, the next day, Dong Qin was inexplicably brought to the defense command. Jae-jin told him that he would not be subject to military trial anymore. Commander Han Dae-sik wants to meet him to learn more about the incident in Sector 21. The two quickly arrived at the meeting room. There were many high-ranking officers in the room. They are all watching a video attentively. Right at the scene of the soldier's murder in Defensive Sector 21. The video recorded a mysterious black shadow. And the canine partner didn't accidentally step on the mine, but was thrown into the minefield while fighting the black shadow. Unexpectedly, Congressman Lee Hae-chi was also present. After hearing the incident, he leisurely walked out of the room. Although he looked very calm, he was extremely worried inside, constantly urging Commander Han Dae-sik to clarify the truth about the incident in Sector 21. Otherwise, it will forever be a thorn in the side of the two military and political generals. Therefore, Commander Han acted immediately, deciding to form a special task force. The task is to thoroughly investigate this incident and arrest the mysterious person in the video. At the suggestion of a high-ranking officer, Appoint Minqui as the team leader. This is the unruly soldier who was locked in the same room with Dong Qin. Although he made a mistake, his military qualities are undeniable. Commander Han also specially instructed Minqui that if this mission is successful, he will not be held responsible for his previous mistakes anymore. After feeling Minqui's loyalty and determination in the end, Han Daesuk also felt gratified, but unexpectedly, Dong Qin was also assigned to the Special Task Force. However, he was very reluctant because in 3 weeks he could be discharged and go home, when he saw the army give him a new canine partner. Dong Qin was so angry that he couldn't speak, but soldiers must follow orders. Dong Qin had no choice but to grit his teeth and get acquainted with the new canine partner. The time to perform the mission was coming soon. Although Dong Qin didn't want to, he still led the canine partner to the gathering place early. Here, he met his new teammates, Jun Sang and Deputy Sergeant Sniper. After that, Minqui also came to join everyone. After Dong Qin met Minqui, he immediately felt awkward. But Minqui seemed to have forgotten the unhappy things before, still keeping the same cold expression. These teammates are all the best people from different units. The mission must not be easy. Plus, a difficult team leader made Dong Qin feel extremely tired. At the Defense Command, Jae-jin is still studying documents about the virus that the doctor gave her. Soon after, she went out to the hallway to rest. Suddenly, she heard noises coming from the vitreous examination room. It's after work hours, there shouldn't be anyone there. Thinking so, Jae-jin slowly walked into the vitreous examination room. Opening the door, she saw that Private No's vitreous body had disappeared from the rack. When she was about to turn on the light, she discovered that there were 2 streaks of blood next to the switch. Jae-jin immediately felt uneasy. Suddenly, a strong force came and pushed her to the ground. Unexpectedly, that person was Private No, who had resurrected from the dead. He glared with red eyes, constantly opening his mouth and screaming madly, crawling on the ground on all fours like an animal. Jae-jin instinctively dodged. She called her ex-boyfriend for help. But he couldn't answer the phone because he was on a mission. She had to call her colleague. This time she got through, but she didn't even have time to say a word. The crazed man rushed forward again, biting her neck tightly as she was about to suffocate. Her colleague finally led the reinforcements to arrive. Unexpectedly, he was shot so many times and still didn't fall in such a critical moment. Jae-jin received the pistol that her colleague threw to her, continuously pulled the trigger, and finally shot the monster in the back of the head, causing it to fall. But even so, it still tried to get up. Seeing this, Jae-jin shot it in the head a few more times, and the man was finally shot dead. Everyone present was so shocked that they couldn't speak. Who exactly is this man? He was clearly dead before, and had been in the vitreous examination room for several days. How could he suddenly come back to life and attack people? Jae-jin couldn't understand. The only clue was that he was like the wild dog she met in the forest before, carrying a mutated rabies virus. During the fight, the wound on her wrist accidentally came into contact with his saliva. Fortunately, after taking a blood sample for testing, no signs of infection were detected. Colleagues confirmed that this virus does not spread from person to person. But Jae-jin believes that this statement is too one-sided to prove her speculation. She injected the wild dog serum into a dead mouse. Unexpectedly, not long after, the dead mouse came back to life. Moreover, its eyes were bloodshot. In great excitement, this matter quickly attracted the attention of the Special Chemical and Biological Weapons Department. Everyone gathered to discuss the cause. In fact, this phenomenon cannot be explained medically, but it can be confirmed that the nucleic acid in the infected person's body has undergone some changes, thereby affecting the central nervous system of the brain, resulting in such a situation of the dead coming back to life. Just cutting off the medulla of the brain can make the patient completely dead. As for how strong the infectiousness of this virus is, it is still unknown. The head of the Chemical and Biological Weapons Department quickly reported this matter to the Defense Commander Han Daesuk. He read the report and felt a headache when he saw that it was related to Sector 21 again. After the head of the Chemical and Biological Weapons Department repeatedly assured that he had seen it with his own eyes, Commander Han reluctantly accepted the explanation of the dead coming back to life. Although it has been confirmed that this virus will spread among animals, it is currently impossible to conclude whether human-to-human transmission will occur. After discussing with each other, the officers decided to assign Jae-jin, who understands this type of virus the most, and the Special Task Force so they can better respond to unexpected situations. The members of the Special Task Force are all talented people transferred from different units, so they can eliminate the mysterious person appearing in Sector 21. At this moment, they are stationed in a village at the foot of the mountain, but they don't know that the mysterious person also carries a virus that can bring the dead back to life. At this moment, the Special Task Force welcomes a new teammate. His name is Mungshul. He is good at information reconnaissance, very skilled at tracking, which is a help that this mission really needs. Currently, except for Jae-jin, all members of the Special Task Force are present. The team leader, Min-kui, begins to deploy the operation in advance. The identity of the target to be eliminated is still unclear. The only person who has ever met the other party is Dong-chin. But he only glanced at them briefly and couldn't provide any useful information. Min-kui uses video files to map out the combat area, preparing to enter the mountain to search from 5 a.m. tomorrow. No matter what, they must complete the elimination mission within a week, because this is the supreme order of Commander Han Dae-sik. He personally assured him, but there is still one thing that makes him worried. Commander Han once instructed that if any suspicious situation is discovered in Sector 21, they must bypass the headquarters and report directly to him. Min-kui feels that this mission may not be simple, especially when he discovered a hand-drawn map at the scene where Private No was previously attacked, which is very similar to the terrain of a location in Sector 21. He feels that this mission is even stranger. As a rule, when performing dangerous missions, the soldiers must write something in advance. But the reconnaissance rookie Mungshul doesn't seem to care much. He is very confident in this operation, thinking that he only needs to arrange surveillance in the forest. Plus reconnaissance drones in the air, the enemy will not be able to escape. But he quickly realized that he was too naive. Because North Korea has set up electronic jammers in the border area, which will make signal transmission very unstable, drones may not be effective. However, he still inadvertently filmed Dong-chin leaving his post through the drone. So, he immediately went to the team leader to snitch. Min-kui already had a lot of opinions about Dong-chin. This time he took the opportunity to severely punish Dong-chin. Dong-chin, the person involved, has unspeakable suffering. In fact, in the morning he discovered that his previous teammates had also come here to perform a fake bomb disposal mission. Good brothers reunited, of course they were very happy. When Dong-chin was on duty, he accidentally saw an old teammate fall. While repairing the signal line, Dong-chin quickly ran over to help. Unexpectedly, this scene was just captured by the drone. Just when he didn't know how to explain, Junsang stepped forward in time to help, claiming that he ordered Dong-chin to help the injured teammate. Thanks to this, Dong-chin avoided punishment. This Junsang is indeed much kinder than team leader Min-kui. Early the next morning, the Special Task Force members were ready. Because this is the first time acting since the team was formed, this trip doesn't hope to eliminate the target, but to get acquainted with the terrain and install surveillance equipment. The truth is, as Mungshul guessed, after entering Sector 21, drones cannot be used due to strong interference. Now, they can only install cameras. It's just that the range that this method can detect is very limited after they finish installing. The team members prepare to go to the next area to search. At this moment, Dong-chin, at the front of the team under the warning of the canine, discovered a black shadow standing not far away, very similar to the target. As Dong-chin prepared to report to the team leader, the black shadow suddenly ran away. At this time, he didn't have time to ask for instructions, so he immediately chased the mysterious person with the canine. The teammates also wanted to chase after him, but Min-kui wanted to be sure, so he asked everyone to wait for orders first. Waiting for the situation to be clarified, poor Dong-chin chased the mysterious person into the forest, eventually not only losing the opponent but also losing radio contact due to signal jamming. Even more sadly, even the compass cannot be used. The comrades waited for a long time but did not see any news from Dong-chin. They started to get a little worried. Luckily, the camera installed earlier suddenly detected movement. A black shadow flashed by. Van Cheet guessed that it was likely the target. Min-kui immediately gave the order. Change towards the target. Junsang believes that finding the missing Dong-chin is the most important thing. Unexpectedly, Min-kui didn't listen to the advice at all, thinking that Dong-chin had a canine partner to help him and could return on his own. Completing the mission first is still important, But the truth is not as simple as he thinks. At this time, Dong Qin is in big trouble. He has completely lost his way in the forest. He wandered around, unexpectedly accidentally crossing the border. This made him sweat coldly. In the forest not far away, a team of North Korean soldiers are chasing the mysterious Black Shadow. They believe that the other party is a soldier who defected to South Korea. Although this task is tiring and dangerous, they can only grit their teeth and do it. Unlucky Dong Qin discovered the existence of this group of North Korean soldiers. On the way, he tried his best to hide his whereabouts. Afraid of encountering the opponent, it's a pity that things didn't go as he wanted. Dong Qin was still discovered by the North Korean soldiers. He was forced to start running away. Fortunately, his physical strength was quite good. Finally hiding behind a tree, successfully escaping the enemy. But before he could catch his breath, he suddenly felt blood dripping from above. Dong Qin looked up. A bloody animal was lying on the tree. He knew there was something more terrifying in the forest. He didn't want to involve the canine partner so that it would be harmed. So he signaled to it, telling it to leave here and go to other teammates. It would be easier for him to escape alone. Facts prove that Dong Qin is still too optimistic. Not long after, he was surrounded by North Korean soldiers. Dong Qin knew he couldn't escape. So, he explained to the other party that he was just lost and accidentally came here. According to the rules of engagement in the non-combat zone, soldiers on both sides are not allowed to open fire. However, the commanding officer doesn't care about any rules, ordering his subordinates to open fire and shoot Dong Qin as soon as the soldier is about to pull the trigger. Suddenly, a strong force pulls the soldier up into the tree. The other comrades look up for a long time, only to see an arm falling down. The North Korean soldiers are terrified and start shooting wildly upwards. Dong Qin rarely gets such a good opportunity. Without thinking, he turns around and runs away. The dense gunfire also alarms the members of the Special Task Force. At this time, the canine also follows the scent and finds them. The comrades all know that if they follow it, they will definitely find Dong Qin. But Min Kui still doesn't plan to go rescue him. Completing the mission first is more important. At this time, Dong Qin is extremely unlucky. He just escaped the pursuit of the North Korean soldiers, only to encounter the unpredictable mysterious person. The bloodthirsty eyes and deformed arms. Dong Qin sees it for the first time, not even having the intention to resist. Fortunately, gunshots ring out at this moment. It turns out that Jae-jin has come to support him. In fact, she came for a run in the morning, just in time to hear the news that Dong Qin was missing a head. So, she immediately brought weapons into the forest to find him. She is much more reliable than those comrades. Seeing Dong Qin in danger, she immediately shoots wildly at the mysterious person. Who would have thought that the opponent would easily avoid all the bullets perfectly and rush towards Jae-jin? Fortunately, it finally can't withstand the bullets and quickly retreats from the battlefield. The two soldiers hurriedly chase after it, but unexpectedly it's like a monkey, climbing up a tree and disappearing in an instant. The soldiers are still surprised when suddenly there is a noise behind them. It turns out that the comrades have arrived. The insider Dong Qin is about to report the situation, when that demon suddenly jumps down from the tree. In an instant, it knocks one person down. The soldiers hurriedly raise their guns to shoot, but only in front of their eyes. The demon has run away. The Special Task Force is also the first time seeing the mission target, never expecting the opponent to be so strong. After calming down, they hurriedly chase in the direction it disappeared, but very quickly after that, the Special Task Force has lost the target. The opponent seemed to evaporate from the world, disappearing without a trace along the way. They didn't even detect any distortions. Since this is a border area, Jun Sang suggests everyone abandon the search. If they continue, they will most likely encounter North Korean patrol soldiers. The team leader has no other choice. He had no choice but to order a retreat. When returning, Dong Qin was still the leader. He quickly came to an abandoned building. There are also some frozen chickens in front of the door. Such a desolate place. There is no way chickens can run here by themselves. Dong Qin really wants to go in and take a look, but remembers the team leader's previous instructions. They are not allowed to act without permission, and in the end he gives up. The Special Task Force's first operation ended like this. Everyone dejectedly returned to the camp. Because Jae-jin participated in the middle of today's operation, she now has the opportunity to report to everyone the latest intelligence about the target. The surveillance camera of the chemical room recorded the scene of Private No dying in Sector 21. Suddenly coming back to life, his cell transformation is the same as the target. From his actions and appearance, it can be clearly seen that he is no longer human. Moreover, ammunition has very limited damage to them. The only effective way is to shoot the back of the neck. But Ming-Qui doesn't want to expand the impact of this operation, because Jae-jin has no way to prove that the target is a monster. Everyone just needs to treat him as a normal North Korean soldier and eliminate him. However, among them, Dong-chin has the right to speak. He once faced the target Heedon. Seeing that the team leader still doesn't believe the story about the monster, he frankly said that he would redraw the opponent's appearance. At this time, the team leader is also speechless, and can only ask everyone to be more vigilant and prepare for the upcoming second operation. Dong-chin has been taking care of the canine partner, so he knows some simple treatment methods. He wants to help Jae-jin disinfect the wound on her hand, but Jae-jin always has some resistance. Didn't want to let a veterinarian examine her. Dong-chin kept complaining. Jae-jin's stubborn personality was still the same, talking to the point of annoying her. In the end, she sadly left. Of course, this is just a small story in the soldier's free time. Everyone in the team is actually worried about the mission to eliminate the target. The team leader has to put his pistol by his pillow to sleep peacefully. At this time, Dong-chin has also finished drawing the monster's portrait. While Jae-jin tosses and turns, unable to sleep. She always remembers what happened in the past 3 days. She resolutely gets up and discusses this matter with a colleague at the research institute. The mysterious person comes and goes like the wind. It is very difficult to hit his only weakness, the nape of his neck, but an accidental remark from the other party reminded Jae-jin. Since the virus in the mysterious person's body is a variant of rabies, can we try targeting the weakness of the rabies virus? So, when the special task force entered the mountain for the second time, Jae-jin Zizan came up with her idea. She planned to take advantage of the characteristic of rabies virus being water-soluble to make a plan of action. The teammates next to her thought that because the target was very dangerous, it was reasonable to ask for more people to assist. But the team leader was very worried that this would cause problems. Without any hesitation, he chose Jae-jin's advice and made a detailed plan for this. They came to a nearby body of water. Each person stood at the edge of the shore, vigilantly raising their guns. Like hunters waiting for prey, but how to get the prey to take the bait. Dong-chin is wandering in the forest. Suddenly seeing a mysterious black shadow standing in the distance, he felt something was wrong, quickly running towards the distance. The mysterious person closely followed behind, moving in the forest. It turned out that he was just bait. The purpose was to lure the mysterious person into the teammates' ambush. He quickly ran to the edge of the cliff, wrapping a rope around his body and jumping down. His entire body hung suspended on the cliff, but the mysterious person behind him didn't have time to stop, immediately falling into the pool of water under the cliff. The teammates who were already waiting immediately concentrated their firepower and shot into the water. When the gunfire stopped, the water surface became calm. Everyone nervously looked around. Suddenly, a black shadow rushed up from the water surface. It was strange that he walked on the water as if walking on solid ground. He hung onto the cliff in the blink of an eye. His silhouette was no longer visible. The team members were all sweating cold. Unexpectedly, the mission failed once again, experiencing such a thing. Ming-Qui was also a little scared inside, but in order to complete the mission silently, he couldn't help but once again pretend to be calm. He comforted the team members that the other party was just a North Korean soldier with good skills. There was absolutely no such thing as a monster, but there were still 2 people in the team who understood the situation. That was Jae-jin and Dong-jin. They firmly believed the target was not human. Like a combination of human and animal, Jae-jin came from scientific research. Believing that it is not possible to hastily conclude what the other party is now, they must first be captured before being able to confirm. Dong-jin was a little confused after hearing this. He had always thought that Jae-jin came here to save him. It turned out that he was just being sentimental. People came here to study the mysterious person. Jae-jin then looked at the man in front of her with a look as if looking at an idiot, but Dong-jin, who lost face, quickly retaliated. Jae-jin had just walked out of the village clinic when she saw Dong-jin surrounded by a group of young girls. She sarcastically said, "You've conquered all the girls here so quickly?" She even used her identity as a medical officer to warn Dong-jin that during wartime he was not allowed to get too close to civilians. Unexpectedly, before she could return to base, Jae-jin was slapped in the face. The village sister saw that Dong-jin and her daughter were quite close, so she enthusiastically invited them to participate in an old man's birthday party in the village. Dong-jin and Jae-jin couldn't refuse the enthusiastic invitation, and finally went to the party room, completely forgetting the rule of not getting too close to civilians. While the party was going on, Dong-jin was also invited to sing. The song he sang was the song they both loved. Dong-jin deliberately sang for Jae-jin to listen to, which made her feel a little uncomfortable. So she went out of the party room alone. A few distortions on the ground attracted her attention, and she felt a little suspicious. Looking into the distance, she found another distortion, so she followed the traces to chase to the back of the mountain. From a distance, she saw a dead animal in the forest. Although Jae-jin was a little confused, she didn't continue to explore very quickly after that. Dong-jin also finished the birthday party. The enthusiastic sister insisted on taking them back. Dong-jin and the sister chatted happily on the road, completely ignoring Jae-jin's existence. This made her very embarrassed, and even felt redundant after the sister left. Jae-jin said again bitterly, "You have really conquered all the women here." As soon as this word came out, Dong-jin was very happy. "Are you jealous?" In fact, this couple still has a lot of hope of reuniting. Even Dong-jin's old teammates realized that, and their words implied a desire to reconcile them. Even withdrew Dong-jin, the teammate who despised marriage placed a cup of coffee in front of Jae-jin, lying that Dong-jin asked him to bring it to her. Another teammate, Juno, constantly withdrew Dong-jin's plan and tried to pursue Jae-jin again, and also promised to give Dong-jin more food in the evening, but he could only wait until tomorrow morning to eat. Because tonight, the special task force that Dong-jin joined will begin the third hunting operation. Ambush at 10 o'clock at night, wait for the mysterious person to enter the designated location, then immediately attack a group of people quickly into Sector 21. Everyone finds their position, then quietly waits for the target to appear. But Dong-jin didn't know that he probably would never get to eat the meal that his teammate Juno had prepared. Because this mysterious person had quietly arrived in the village, Juno in the base was preparing instant noodles for Dong-jin. Suddenly the dogs in the village barked fiercely. It seemed like something terrible was about to happen. But Jae-hun didn't think much, quickly went to bed, while Juno prepared to go check the radio situation. In the meantime, he discovered that the base gate was open, but looking left and right, he didn't see anything suspicious. A moment later, Juno heard a noise in the main hall. He ran to see and found out that Jae-hun was thrown heavily on the ground. He wanted to run away but was pulled in by a very strong force. Juno immediately realized the danger, quickly ran to the warehouse to get a gun, and then trembled to search for the enemy everywhere. At this time, Jae-hun was cowering in the corner, not knowing how to survive. Juno wanted to go forward to see, but at this moment the mysterious person finally appeared, only to see the opponent directly throw a very strong punch, knocking Juno to the ground, and then quickly came in front of him. It was another fierce beating. After a while, Juno's whole body was full of distortions, only to see him try his best to crawl to the front of the telephone, call the radio, and tell the special task force members who were ambushing. The target has appeared in the base, and then there was no more movement. Dong-jin and Jae-jin immediately realized that the situation was not good, and quickly ran towards the base. The guard at the door had not yet understood the situation. Dong-jin didn't have time to explain, and directly rushed into the hall, just in time to see teammate Juno flying from a distance. At this time, he was seriously injured and could not say a word. Suddenly, the figure of the mysterious person appeared again. With just a few jumps, he rushed out of the base. Dong-jin quickly led the canine partner to chase after him, but the opponent's speed was too fast. Not long after, Dong-jin lost the target. He was worried about the safety of his teammates. He hurriedly returned to the base. On the way, he ran into Haiza. She was very curious about the gunshots she had just heard. Dong-jin didn't find it convenient to explain much, greeted her and hurriedly left. But he didn't know that, right at the place where he had just stopped, the mysterious person had dropped a claw, along with a piece of uniform cloth, which was coincidentally discovered by Haiza and her husband when Dong-jin ran back to the base. Then the scene that caught his eye was the cold-hearted murder of his teammate Jae-hun. He was immediately speechless, the instant noodles that he promised to make. He didn't even have time to eat them. Dong-jin felt that he had to do something for him. So, he took his gun and went straight out, preparing to find the mysterious person to avenge his teammates. But the team leader spoke up to stop him. The mysterious person is the common target of the entire team. Dong-jin is absolutely not allowed to act alone. At this time, did Dongqin still care about these things? He immediately yelled at the team leader. After hearing this, the team leader didn't show any mercy, and directly stepped forward and punched Dongqin, causing him to fall. At this time, he gradually calmed down, and his desire to kill the mysterious person became even stronger. But it seems that everyone doesn't have a good way. The only person present at the time of the incident was Juno, although he was the first to be attacked. But he was in a coma and could not provide any useful clues when handling the aftermath for the deceased. Dongqin saw Juno's parents crying in pain and felt even more uncomfortable in his heart. The nature of a soldier not only causes losses to the country, but also means the breakup of a family. He knew that being depressed like this was useless. Avenging his teammates was what he should do at this time. His opportunity came quickly in the surveillance footage that the reconnaissance scout installed at the village entrance. It was seen that the mysterious person had returned to the village. Seeing this, the team leader immediately felt a great threat. Just now a teammate had sacrificed. If something happened to the nearby villagers again, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, he immediately mobilized all the members of the group. Taking the village as the center, they deployed a search. Dongjin and his teammates quickly arrived at the village road. He suddenly saw Heise's daughter, Min Hee, walking alone. It would be terrible if she encountered the mysterious person. Therefore, Dongjin immediately separated from the team, intending to take her home first. The little girl has always had a crush on Dongjin. So, when they were about to arrive at her house, she casually gave him an old camera. At first, he didn't pay attention to it, but when he accidentally watched the content inside, he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. The film recorded the entire process of the Korean-North Korean conflict in 1997. Moreover, there was a scene of Assemblyman Lee Hyuk and Commander Han shooting their teammates to cover up the truth. If the records in this are true, it will definitely be a blockbuster in the Korean political arena. How coincidental, the previous owner of the camera was Commander Han Dae-sik. This time, he sent Min Kui to carry out the mission, and had secretly instructed him to find the lost camera. Unexpectedly, it was swept away by the river into the village, and then picked up by Min Hui. Casually giving it to Dongjin. At this time, Jun Sang next to him also watched the content inside. But his face did not show any surprise. On the contrary, he calmly said to Dongjin, "This may be a scene during a military exercise. Currently, the most important thing is to eliminate the mysterious person. It is best to put aside other things." He said that because Assemblyman Lee Hyuk in the video is his father. Dongjin also thought so. Moreover, he didn't know that the person in the film was Commander Han Dae-sik. Therefore, he did not return the camera very quickly. Jae-jin brought good news. The Research Institute has decoded the virus on the mysterious person and has created 2 tubes of inhibitory drugs. Just inject it into the back of the opponent's neck and you can kill them immediately. Now, Dongjin's entire mind is focused on eliminating the mysterious person. He relied on the footprints on the mud at the village entrance to find the road that the mysterious person often took into the village, making it so convenient. Because the mysterious person carries the rabies virus, some of his habits are very similar to dogs. And Dongjin came from the dog training team. He discovered that the entire periphery of the village is planted with a plant called evergreen. It will emit a scent that dogs hate. Therefore, the road that the mysterious person takes into the village each time is very fixed, which is the field without planting Van Niantan evergreen. At the same time, Dongjin also experimented with the canine being very sensitive to high-frequency noise, which can cause the opponent to lose focus for a short time. This had happened before when dealing with the mysterious person, so a complete plan has formed in Dongjin's head. It is possible to install high-frequency noise at the intersection where the mysterious person enters the village, forcing him into a large warehouse, and then use high-power noise to make him unconscious. At that time, the target in the warehouse may not be able to resist. The special task force quickly began to prepare. The first thing to do is to evacuate the villagers. They can't be injured. The villagers also cooperated, all gathered to the village's bomb shelter to hide temporarily. Next, the soldiers began to install loudspeakers at the intersections. Because this place is still a distance from Sector 21, it is not subject to signal interference. So, drones can also be effective. When everything was ready, the special task force could only wait. Fortunately, not long after, a mysterious black shadow appeared on the surveillance screen. The soldiers who had been waiting for a long time immediately turned on the loudspeakers. The mysterious person's whole body convulsed, showing extreme pain. This trick really worked. Everyone was relieved. using the images transmitted from the camera and the aerial drone. Every time the mysterious person arrives at an intersection, the previously installed loudspeaker will emit noise, forcing him step by step to the final destination, the warehouse. When all the soldiers were helping with all their strength to carry out the mission, Jun Sang seemed very relaxed. Hurriedly starting the high-power loudspeaker, the mysterious person suddenly moaned in pain on the ground. Dong Qin was also not idle, shooting wildly next to him. Unexpectedly, at a critical moment, the loudspeaker suddenly stopped working due to overload. The mysterious person's whole body convulsed, showing extreme pain in the air. The soldiers who had been waiting for a long time immediately turned on the loudspeaker, convulsed, showing extreme pain in the air. Hurriedly starting the high-power loudspeaker, the mysterious person suddenly moaned in pain on the ground. Dong Qin wasn't idle either, shooting wildly alongside him, but unexpectedly at a critical moment, the loudspeaker suddenly stopped working due to overload. The mysterious person's whole body convulsed, showing extreme pain in the air. The mysterious person's whole body convulsed, showing extreme pain in the air. A chance to catch their breath, the tables turn. This time it was Dong Qin's turn to have bad luck. Speaking of close-quarters combat, the mysterious person is naturally extremely powerful. Dong Qin and Zhejin joining forces still couldn't resist. Soon after, Zhejin was cornered by the mysterious person. Extremely critical at the crucial moment, Dong Qin unleashed his hidden power. Someone jumped down from the conveyor belt not far away and ruthlessly stabbed the back of the mysterious person's neck. Unexpectedly, his vitality was so strong. He even had the strength to counterattack. Dong Qin tightening grip made him unable to move. Fortunately, Zhejin wasn't slow either, quickly taking out the prepared inhibitor, running up and forcefully injecting it into the back of the mysterious person's neck. This powerful opponent finally fell. Not long after, the other members also arrived at the scene, looking at the mysterious person on the ground. They were silent for a long time. At this time, Yung Yulitrung Wai Lai also received the news that the mysterious person had been subdued. He immediately reported this to his father, Li Hyuk Lai Hatch, and also mentioned the matter of damaging the camera. After Li Hyuk Lai Hatch heard this, his face also showed a relieved expression. But could he easily get away with it? After the special task force completed the mission of eliminating the infected person, everyone seemed excited because they were about to gloriously return to their team. In the meantime, they also reported this to his father, Li Hyuk Lai Hatch, and also mentioned the matter of damaging the camera. After Li Hyuk Lai Hatch heard this, his face also showed a relieved expression. But could he easily get away with it? After the special task force completed the mission of eliminating the infected person, everyone seemed excited because they were about to gloriously return to their team. The villagers also happily came out of their shelters. But some were happy while others were sad. Dong Qin returned to the dormitory and discovered that the camera left on the bedside table had disappeared. He ran to ask Yung Yulitrung Wai Lai if he had seen it. In fact, it was he who took the camera, but now he certainly wouldn't admit it. To celebrate the completion of the mission, Chae-hun prepared a lavish meal. After everyone happily finished eating, Zhejin hurried back to research the mysterious person's lens. So, she was the first in the team to return. This also meant that the couple Dong Qin and Zhejin had to part ways. Clearly, they both cared a lot about each other, but neither was willing to take the initiative to express it first. This feeling was a little bitter, but also not without a little sweetness. Zhejin had just returned to the research room and plunged into work. It wasn't long before there was a new discovery. The mysterious person and Private No had transformed. After death, both had wounds from wild dog bites on their bodies. That proved that the virus in their bodies all came from the wild dogs that had been eliminated before, but there were no wounds on these wild dogs. The only possibility was that there was another host, through blood or saliva, causing the rabies virus in the feral dog's body to mutate. But at this time, the special task force members are preparing to withdraw at any moment. Suddenly, the communications officer receives news that Assemblyman Lee Hyuk Lie-hatch is about to inspect Sector 21. But Min Kui is not at the base. At this time, he is in Sector 21, using a detector to search for something important. Not long ago, Kui received an important piece of intelligence. In 1997, when the conflict occurred, in Sector 21 on the border, a North Korean officer carrying a mysterious object was preparing to defect to South Korea. Both the person and the object suddenly disappeared. What that mysterious object was also became a mystery that has not been solved, only knowing that it was a type of strategic material with radioactive properties. Just recently, Jae-jin reported that a mysterious man was carrying some kind of radioactive material. This moved K, connecting the two things together. Could this mysterious substance still be in Zone 21? At this moment, the detector indeed detected a strong radiation reaction. K followed the signal all the way, gradually reaching an abandoned building. As he was about to go deeper, he suddenly received a message from his teammate saying that Counselor Hatch was about to come for an inspection. K had to stop his actions and return to base, which made him very uncomfortable. The first thing he did upon returning was to directly reveal the truth that Chung Oi-lie is Lie-hatch's biological son. This surprised everyone, especially Dong Chin. He immediately understood that it was very likely that Chung Oi-lie had stolen the camera. So, he quickly confronted him directly. Unexpectedly, Chung Oi-lie frankly admitted that he was his father. Lie-hatch is about to participate in the election. If the video content is made public, it will have a negative impact on him. After listening, Dong Chin angrily scolded him for not being worthy of being a soldier, and even more despised his father's actions when Korean Counselor Lie-hatch came to inspect the base. He completely ignored his noble status and showed contempt, even when shaking hands. He didn't even look at the other person. But the captain's expression was completely opposite to his, even actively sucking up to Lie-hatch, saying that if he found radioactive material in Zone 21, he would give it to him as a presidential campaign item. His superior, Handeksik, was completely unworthy of following. So, the next day, the captain got up early, intending to go into the mountains to find supplies again, even not intending to participate in the Special Forces disbandment ceremony in the end. It could only be left to Chung Oi-lie. On behalf of the host, after the ceremony ended, the members of the team all put on their backpacks, preparing to return to their units. Unexpectedly, at this moment the radio suddenly rang, saying that the little girl Min Hai in the village had gone missing, asking everyone to help search. Not long after, Min Hai's mother, Heza, also rushed over, asking the Special Forces team to help. It turned out that not long ago, Min Hai was attracted by a squirrel on the way to school, and she ran alone into Zone 21. This is the image recorded by the border surveillance camera. After Chung Oi-lie found out, he didn't say a word. Immediately mobilized the team members, put on their uniforms again, preparing to go into the mountains to find people. At the same time, Jae-jin is still thinking about the issue of the virus host. She thought of the infected people who had been killed before. Their eyes were all red. But the first time it acted in Zone 21, that dark figure clearly had blue eyes. This proves that there is another target in Zone 21, possibly a more formidable host. She hurriedly told Dong Jin her speculation. Dong Jin had also seen the mysterious person with blue eyes, and immediately reported it to Junsang. Therefore, the Special Forces team entering the mountains, in addition to searching for Min Hai, must also confirm the existence of another target. Heza heard this, and became even more worried, saying directly that she wanted to go into Zone 21 with everyone. Dong Jin helped to say that she understood the mountains very well, and they really needed a guide. And Jae-jin once again brought the inhibitors, preparing to return to Zone 21. Everyone quickly went into the mountains to start searching. This time, the sniffer dog finally had a chance to show its skills. Following the scent of the missing girl's toy, it followed it to the front of an abandoned building. When it reached the door, the sniffer dog seemed to sense something scary inside. It lay motionless on the ground. Dong Jin had no choice but to leave it outside the door. The others in the team went in one by one. The inside of the building was pitch black, with only a little light shining in from the broken wall. As everyone carefully moved forward, then suddenly a silhouette appeared before everyone's eyes. It turned out to be Mingyu, who had gone out alone. Both sides were very embarrassed to meet. Junsang spoke first, reporting the purpose of this trip. Kei didn't say much, but told everyone to listen to Junsang's command. Due to the limited space inside the building, Junsang decided to let him and Dongjin go deeper to search. The others were on guard outside. They went along the room to check, but did not detect any suspicious signs. Dongjin couldn't help but feel a little anxious. In the blink of an eye, they had reached the door of the last room. As soon as the door opened, a dark shadow flashed past, leaving only the missing Minnie standing in the room. Luckily, she was still safe and sound, muttering that an uncle who lived here had saved her. It's a pity that he suddenly disappeared. Dongjin was a little suspicious, but the most important thing right now was to ensure Minnie's safety. The others in the team received the news and quickly came to the door. At this moment, Jae-jin also came from the research institute. She was still carrying 2 inhibitor injections to deal with the mysterious person. Dongjin always remembered that dark shadow. He learned from Minnie that the person liked to greet with a fist bump. He felt even stranger, so he had Junsang take Minnie out first, while he went back to find out the truth. But when Minnie found out, she was worried that Dongjin would discover something else inside. So she immediately led some team members in. From afar, they saw Dongjin running into a door and disappearing. He had just arrived at a dark room. He immediately felt movement from the corner of the room. Through the high-intensity flashlight, he saw a silver-haired soldier. At that moment, something suddenly fell from above. The silver-haired man pushed Dongjin away, preventing him from being injured. Dongjin felt that he was not like the mysterious person he had killed before. He seemed to have no ill intentions. The truth was indeed so. After meeting her mother again, Minnie recounted what had happened before. At that time, she got lost in the forest. When she was about to step on a mine, the silver-haired man appeared and saved her. At this moment, Dongjin wanted to try to see if he could communicate with the person, so he used a fist bump to signal that he had no ill intentions. Unexpectedly, the person actually reacted. He was about to step forward to offer his hand when the captain and the others suddenly rushed in. The silver-haired man panicked at the sound of gunfire and immediately turned and ran away. His speed was surprisingly fast. Team member Van Chit, who was guarding the back door of the building, couldn't dodge in time and was knocked to the ground by him. His teammates who found out about it ran to gather. Unfortunately, the silver-haired man had disappeared, and Van Chit was more seriously injured than expected. His spine was broken. It would take 2 months to recover. Because of the sudden appearance of the silver-haired man, the Special Forces team that was about to disband had to stay. Until the truth is clarified. At this time, the captain helps Lie Hatch, saying that the radioactive material also had clues through the basket. It could basically be confirmed. It was hidden in the abandoned building. Lie Hatch was extremely pleased when he heard the news. Not only that, he had just received the International Peace Prize. This would become a great boost for him in the race for the presidency. But joy turned to sorrow. Lie Hatch suddenly received bad news. Commander Handexix would hold a press conference, saying there was important news to announce. It turned out that, over the years, he had always felt guilty for the act of shooting his comrade and concealing the truth back in '97. Seeing that the truth of the incident was about to be exposed recently, Commander Handexix decided to proactively confess to the media. He wanted to exchange it for inner peace, but unexpectedly, Lie Hatch suddenly appeared at this moment. After seeing the opponent's notes, he immediately guessed what he intended to do. Without hesitation, he gave orders to his subordinates to kill Handexix, a comrade who had fought alongside him for many years. The scene of the incident was also handled perfectly. All the investigation results led to the hypothesis that Handexix had committed suicide due to excessive pressure. Lie Hatch didn't even have time to feel pleased. Then, the news suddenly broadcasted a video about the truth of the North-South Korean conflict in '97, which made him so angry that he became terrifying. He couldn't understand it. Wasn't the camera destroyed already? Why could the recorded video still be broadcasted? It turned out that everything was the work of his son, Chung Oi-lai. Previously, when destroying the camera, Chung Oi-lai secretly kept the recording tape inside. Initially, he wanted to advise his father to withdraw from the presidential race, considering it his father's way of compensating for past mistakes. But unexpectedly, the other party initially agreed, but after learning that the camera had been destroyed, he suddenly changed his mind. Chung Oi-lai finally saw his father's true colors, so he sent the recording tape to the media. At this moment, Dong Chin also saw the exposed video. The clearer image made him notice more details. One of the Korean officers was holding a photo in his hand. It was Dong Chin and his mother. Clearly, this harmed Korean officer was Dong Chin's father. This put Dong Chin in a state of extreme shock. Obviously, he couldn't accept this truth. It's unknown how he will face this. This guy named Dong Chin discovered from the video. The Korean soldier killed by his comrade was actually his biological father. So, he angrily glared at Chung Oi-lai, the son of his father's killer, and was about to punch him when he was pulled back by his teammates. In the end, he had to try to calm down. Chung Oi-lai felt that he was no longer qualified to participate in combat missions. Therefore, he applied to withdraw from the Special Forces team. After learning the truth about his father's death, Dong Chin immediately called his mother. Previously, his father's death had been fabricated by Lai Hatch into a hypothesis of betraying South Korea and surrendering to North Korea. His mother not only had to endure the pain of losing her husband, raising her child alone, but also had to bear the stigma of being the family of a traitorous soldier. The suffering she has endured over the years can be imagined. In an instant, the attachment and unwillingness poured out. At this moment, Dong Jin also felt very uncomfortable, encouraging her to bravely step out. Finally, she listened to Dong Jin's advice and went before the media to recount her experiences after the event in '97. At first, when she heard the news that her husband was killed for betraying, she didn't believe Lai Hatch's one-sided words. She wanted to find him to confront him. But Lai Hatch always avoided her. She was sure that there must be hidden circumstances. Dong Jin was not someone who could endure this either. He used Chung Oi-lai's phone to call Lai Hatch to officially declare war on him, vowing not to let him have a good ending. After hearing this, Lai Hatch was also very surprised. He didn't expect that Dong Chin was the son of his comrade in the event in '97. Therefore, he also had the intention to eliminate Dong Jin because the video recording the event in '97 was leaked. Although Lai Hatch was not convicted, his reputation was greatly affected. Currently, he really needs to obtain the radioactive material that appeared in Zone 21 to regain everyone's support. So, this time Lai Hatch decided to personally lead the team there. The Special Forces team, under the command of Min Kui, once again arrived in front of the abandoned building. Their purpose on the surface was to deal with the virus host. But Kui had his own purpose. He wanted to help Lai Hatch find the radioactive material in exchange for a bright future. He used a detector to find the place with the strongest signal, but there were no discoveries around it. He immediately guessed that this building might have more than one floor. So, he arranged for the team members to spread out to search to expand the scope. Jae-jin made a new discovery while searching. She saw a nameplate on a remaining skeleton. It read Gozangman. This person was the Korean soldier carrying the radioactive material, who was preparing to surrender to South Korea. Jae-jin was very curious about what happened in this building. So was Dong Jin. He always had a feeling of familiarity with the virus host. Especially the fist bump. That was the gesture that he and his father often did when he was young. Dong Jin and Jae-jin finished installing the lighting equipment, quickly went deeper inside and arrived at the deepest floor of the building. Dong Jin discovered a box placed here, but he didn't check it, but was attracted by a photo next to it. It turned out to be a photo of him and his mother from the past. This photo had always been carried by his father. Why did it appear here at this time? The virus host suddenly stepped out of the darkness. Dong Jin immediately guessed a possibility. He looked at the other person suspiciously. Without even paying attention to the captain's assembly order coming through the radio, Jae-jin saw that he wasn't answering, so she had to leave first. On the way, she discovered some fresh tracks. She followed the tracks and found a wounded North Korean soldier. Before that, he was searching for a traitor nearby because of a dispute with his teammates, so he was stabbed in the stomach. It was very difficult for him to escape here after Jae-jin bandaged his wound. Through his story, she learned some things about the event in '97. In that year, a young couple carried material that North Korea used for nuclear testing. Defected to South Korea, the man among them turned into a skeleton in the abandoned building, while the wife died tragically in the border conflict. The experimental materials they brought were also missing. Therefore, North Korea continuously sent people to search to recover the experimental materials. The virus carrier who was killed before was one of those who went to search. At this moment, Dong Chin suspected that the man in front of him was his dead father. He held the photo and asked the other person if he still remembered the person in the photo, but before he could react, news came through the radio that the team was under attack. The virus host saw this and immediately turned and left. Dong Chin had to rush back to support. The other party was the team that the injured person was in before, not long after. These North Korean soldiers were shot from behind. It turned out that the men in black arranged by Lai Hatch had arrived. The Special Forces team members didn't know the background of the other party. still raising their guns vigilantly. But Min Kui understood clearly. He was the one who revealed the location to Lai Hatch's Lai Hatch group. Therefore, he immediately used a tough attitude to ask Dongqin and Jejin to lower their guns, lying that these people were reinforcements coming to support. These people in black were very aggressive and didn't ask anything. They directly blatantly planted explosives. Now only Jejin understands best these people in black. The North Korean soldiers who just died, even Min Kui. In fact, they are all searching for nuclear test materials. Kui led the men in black to the room where Dongqin was before, immediately opened the box after replacing it. After hearing this, he immediately became impatient, requesting KK and the men in black to kill Dongqin and the members of the Special Forces team, then slowly search for the experimental materials. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the members of the Special Forces team suddenly received a message via radio, which was a message from Hiza. She discovered that people in black or with tattoos could be considered enemies. It turned out that Hiza had previously come to the base to find Dongjin, but couldn't find the person she was looking for, and happened to overhear Lai Hatch talking to his subordinates, learning that they wanted to eliminate the Special Forces team. She also cleverly discovered the tattoos on the hands of the people in black, deducing that they were not regular soldiers. So, after the other party left, she immediately used the radio to contact Dongqin. Luckily, Hiza's information arrived in time, helping them have time to prepare so they wouldn't be killed unexpectedly immediately. The two sides relied on the barricade to fire fiercely. The sergeant unfortunately got shot and injured. Dongqin and Jejin hurriedly dragged him into a room to temporarily hide. After stabilizing the injured person, Dongqin and Jejin took advantage of the people in black, who were searching for experimental materials, and once again stepped out of the room, deciding to split up to eliminate the enemy. At this moment, KK felt that this group of people in black also had no small amount of malice towards him. Therefore, he coordinated with Dongqin, who was hiding on the other side of the wall, successfully luring some of the people in black into the ambush. Dongqin took the opportunity to shoot and detonate the explosives. The people in black under the wall all fell down until the smoke cleared. Dongqin found that KK was also seriously injured. At this moment, he still insisted on going to find the experimental materials. But in the end, due to the injury being too severe, he unwillingly closed his eyes. Dongqin finished dealing with this side, and hurriedly went to meet Jejin. Finally found her. Unexpectedly, she had been captured by the people in black for Jejin's safety. Dongqin had no choice but to lower his weapon and raise his hands in surrender. Right at this moment, Lai Hatch led some people in black to appear. Seeing that Dongqin no longer had the ability to resist, Lai Hatch was extremely smug, mocking Dongqin for being as stubborn as his father. It turned out that many years ago it was his father who insisted on reporting Lai Hatch's crimes to his superiors, which is why he was shot to death. Lai Hatch created a fake defection and put him on a boat, drifting down the river towards North Korea. Jejin heard these words, combined with the clues discovered earlier, and gradually pieced together the truth of the matter. Go Sangmin was preparing to surrender to South Korea and happened to meet Dongqin's dying father by the river, so he took him to this abandoned building. Go Sangmin heard him talk about his wife's death, and went into a frenzy, shaking violently, causing the ground to collapse. Go Sangmin died on the spot, and the nuclear test materials were also shattered. Dongqin's father, still not dead, was accidentally affected by the nuclear test materials, and transformed into the current virus host. After that, he accidentally infected a stray dog, and this stray dog bit the mysterious man who was shot with the substance, as well as Private No, causing them to transform. Now, the truth of all the events has been revealed, but it is unknown whether it can be announced to everyone, because at this moment, Lai Hatch ordered his subordinates to shoot Dongqin and Jejin. Fortunately, at this moment, Junsang suddenly rushed in, pointing a gun at Lai Hatch, threatening him to order the men in black to lower their weapons, and a fierce argument broke out between the two fathers and sons. Right at this moment, the virus host appeared. Seeing this, Lai Hatch intended to shoot the host. Dongqin immediately stepped in front of his father, but unexpectedly, Junsang unexpectedly stepped forward, taking a bullet for everyone. Looking at his son lying on the ground dying, Lai Hatch was completely devastated. Immediately afterwards, he fell into a frenzy, constantly shooting at the people in front of him. Fortunately, Dong Qin reacted quickly, pulling Jae-jin away, while the virus host immediately rushed forward, knocking him to the ground. When things calmed down, Dong Qin slowly stepped forward. With great difficulty, he managed to utter the word "Dad." Childhood memories became vivid again. When he was young, Dong Qin was very afraid of dogs. Finally, under his father's dedicated guidance, he learned how to get along with dogs. At this moment, his father also slowly approached. His eyes full of love said it all. Dong Qin wanted his father to come home with him, but his father turned away. Now he is just a mobile source of radiation, completely unable to return to a normal life. At this moment, the alarm of the explosives placed by the men in black sounded. It was about to explode. Finally, Dong Qin was persuaded by Jae-jin, and reluctantly stepped out of the building. On the way, he also met the almost forgotten sergeant. His father saw them off, but suddenly discovered that Lai Hatch got up again, so he immediately punched and detonated the explosives. The entire building collapsed immediately, burying all the evil men and the root of the crime under the rubble. Not long after, the authorities confirmed that Lai Hatch was the culprit of the border conflict in '97, killing Dong Qin's father. The person who was previously wrongly accused of desertion was finally acquitted and posthumously awarded the rank of first class. Dong Qin was finally discharged from the army and returned to his mother's side. She watched her son return safely. Her lips trembled, unable to speak, moved beyond words. At the end of the film, Jae-jin learned of her identity. It turned out that she was the child in the hands of the North Korean female soldier, while Dong Qin was working at the Royal Animal Rescue Center. Looking at his eyes, it can be seen that he is very satisfied with his current life.